Good morning. Hello there, people of the internet. How is everybody doing today? You know what, I'm doing alright. Thanks for asking. So I'm here today and I'm showing off an old revolver that I got. It's not mine. I just so happen to have it because I am doing some work. The revolver actually belongs to a gun shop that I'm doing work with. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. And I figure I'll go ahead and give the gun shop a shout out since, you know, it is their revolver after all. Daddy's Gun Shop up in Mayo, Florida. If you find yourself in North Florida, go ahead and go pay them a visit. So besides that, let me show you guys what I actually got here. A bit more coffee here. Now I figure, since I have this old thing, I may as well make a video on it. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right here. This right here is a pattern. Man, the birds are crazy today. What's going on? This is a pattern 1883. Yeah, 1883 Reichsrevolver for Germany by Germany. Let's go ahead and talk about the history of this old gun right here. Now, I do not have, let me go ahead and set this holster down real quick. I do not have any ammunition for this old thing. But apparently 44 Magnum and 44 Special Brass can be pretty easily converted to run in these things. If this was mine, I would probably go ahead and I would do that, but this is not mine, and I'm not going to risk something going wrong. So I'm not going to worry about using any live ammunition with this thing. Instead, I will just use masterful editing and insane CGI. I will use the best editing skills I have available to me to show off just how powerful this revolver would be if I actually had ammunition and were to fire it. Oh boy, now that is powerful. Okay, so this is actually a later pattern gun than what Germany would originally adopt. Let's go ahead and talk about why this thing came into existence. So, during the time period where the first version of this was being created, I think it was like the 1879 pattern or something like that, Reichsrevolver, multiple countries had multiple nations had unified and become one unified nation. And they had no standard small arms. They all had their own proprietary stuff. Of course, there was nothing really proprietary. It was more like what everybody could get their hands on. There was no standard arm. They ended up adopting the Gewehr 1871 pattern rifle, and that was their main rifle for a while. And they ended up getting their hands on they wanted to get their hands on one specific type of handgun. They wanted a more, what's the word I'm looking for here? Logistically friendly system whenever it came to their small arms. They wanted one universal rifle for everybody and one universal handgun for everybody. So they adopted the 1871 rifle, and the handgun, they kind of sat on their hands for a little while until eventually they ended up adopting a much larger version of this right here in 1879. I think that is the year. Very, very similar to this right here. It had a longer barrel. The grip was a little bit on the wider side. It still fired a 10.6mm round. This was a roughly 260 grain bullet traveling at roughly 700 feet per second. Not exactly a powerhouse of a round, but it was good for the day that these revolvers existed. In 1883, I believe that is the date for this one right here, the pattern, the model. In 1883, the Germans, or the nations that had gathered together, had decided to themselves, you know what, the one that we have is just a little bit too big and cumbersome, so they shortened the barrel. They redid the profile on the grip. They did a couple of minor odds and ends with these things. But these revolvers actually stayed in German service up until the adoption of the Luger in 1908. And the Luger is a whole train of semi-automatics, and that's a whole freaking ball game of a video that I could go in at a later point in time. Right now we're talking about these right here. Germany built these and designed these to be as strong and durable as possible. They wanted, they weren't looking for comfort. They weren't looking for ease of use. They were just looking for the strongest possible revolver that they could possibly make. And that is exactly what they did. This one right here is dated for 1893, and it is in immaculate shape for how old it is. The cylinder has no play in it whatsoever. The hammer feels fantastic. It's buttery smooth. The trigger, nice, crisp, and clean. I mean, this thing right here is just insane for how old it is. I can't believe the shape that this thing is in. So the Germans put a lot of effort and time into making these old things right here. And they put a lot of thought in just how strong they wanted these revolvers to be. Now, the short, or the biggest weakness for these revolvers, well, one of the biggest weaknesses, is the finish. The finish was not really intended to last. They wanted the revolvers to last, but they didn't really go all in with the finish. This one right here still has some of its original finish, so I guess it did last 130, 40 years, something like that. A century and a half, basically. And we still have some finish there, so the finish was good enough. But it was, like, not as good as, like, the deep bluing that we would see on a lot of firearms of the day. Now, there are a couple of really weak points of the system with this revolver. First off, there's no ejection rod. So if you decide to go ahead and run rounds through this thing, there's a little open port right here where you can run your rounds through. I do not necessarily know revolver terminology. Ah, yes, there's a loading gate. Now I remember. You'll have to forgive me. I'm not running on much sleep right now. There's a... what the hell did I just call it? There's a what I just called it right here on the side of the cylinder. You open that up and you can, it's a loading gate. You can load your cartridges in. They actually, thank you, Kevin. Jesus Christ, the birds today are freaking nuts. Anyone who doesn't know who Kevin is, he's my peacock. I got 4 of them. Welcome to the channel. But they actually issued a separate ejecting rod that was separate from the handgun, or you could like use a stick, or your tactical 1800 ballpoint pen, whatever the equivalent of that was. You could use whatever you had available to you to knock out your cases, but you would load them in one at a time, turning your revolver like you do with all of your loading gate revolvers. I definitely prefer the ones that have the cylinders come out, and you got the speed loaders, but that technology just didn't exist at the time. So you're all loaded up, you close your gate, you fire your rounds, bang, 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 and you got to get them out. So open that up, half cock or partial cock, and you use your ejector rod and you knock those spent cases out. And then one by one you load them back in. It's not a very fast or effective system, but considering the time period, it's actually pretty revolutionary. So this right here is a cartridge firing gun. The ammunition that it did fire had a massive rim on it. The cylinder itself has slots cut into the chamber, so it will actually seat those rims into the cylinder itself. They'll be flush with the cylinder, whereas some rimmed cartridge revolvers, the rim like sits on the outside of the revolver. This way, if your case ruptures, there's actually an extra layer of a brass sealing right there, and it's less potential to get hot gas directed back towards the shooter. Big elephant in the room, this massive lever on the side right here, this is actually a safety. Now, people would think that the safety would work if the hammer was cocked. Thank you, Kevin. What the hell was that? Kevin, are you okay, buddy? People would think that the safety would work if the hammer is cocked, but the safety, in fact, does not function if the hammer is cocked. It'll go down probably about that far and then it stops. It will not function if the hammer is cocked because it's not designed to function if the hammer is cocked. The safety is actually designed to function with the hammer down. This way you cannot pull the hammer back. This right here is as far as it will go. So the safety is just to stop the hammer from coming back. So if you have the safety on and you have your hammer down, I hope that the chamber that it is on is empty, otherwise the hammer will be resting on a primer, and if you bump it or something, it's definitely potential that primer will detonate, and then you will have a really bad day. So that's not really the best idea for safety. It doesn't do anything for the trigger, because this right here is a single action only firearm. It's not double action, so even with the safety off, hammer down, if I pull the trigger, absolutely nothing happens. You have to have the hammer back in order to pull the trigger and fire the revolver if you had ammunition, which I do not. The sights on these things are about as good as you would expect from a revolver of this time period. The front sight is literally just molded onto the barrel itself, so it has 0 adjustments on it whatsoever. The rear sight is just molded in the frame of the revolver, so it has 0 adjustments whatsoever, so Kentucky windage if your revolver is off, I guess. In the upgrades from the 79 pattern to the 83 pattern, they shortened the barrel, they redid the profile of the grip right here, they redid the profile of the Kevin, my goodness, buddy, of the little rod that you use to pull out your cylinder. I'm not entirely positive on what that's called. They did a little bit of upgrade on the actual style of the frame itself, like the curvature and whatnot, and the way that you actually disassemble the firearm. Well, in this particular case, it's a black powder revolver, not technically a firearm. Would it be technically a firearm? Because it does take cartridges. I don't know. I'm sure somebody down in the comments is going to be like, yeah, it's a firearm. It takes cartridges. That would make sense. I know black powder, the cap and ball ones, do not count as firearms, legally speaking. But the way that you actually take down said revolver is a little bit different than the 1879 patterns. I gotta remember my terminology here. But besides that, there's not much else that can be said for these things. They're massive, they're heavy. These are not near as heavy or as massive as the 79 patterns. I do not have a 79 here to show off, but I have handled them before, and they're behemoths of revolvers. This is a behemoth of a revolver. As a matter of fact, give me a second, I will give you guys some scale as to just how big this actually is. Okay, this right here is my 1911 A1 clone, made in Turkey by T-Sauce or Tysus, however it is you feel like pronouncing that. And here is our Reichsrevolver. Our Reichsrevolver is actually slightly larger than our 1911. Weight-wise, I'd say they're about the same. Maybe the 1911 is a little bit heavier, but in terms of size, this right here is just a little bit larger in dimensions. Not quite as girthy in feel, but actual size. Yeah, the revolver's just slightly larger than the 1911, but not by much. Okay, I don't think that there is anything else left to say about this old girl. I am amazed at just how good the finish is on this thing for how old it is. It's just, every time I've seen one of these, the finish has been like gone, and this one still has some shininess to it. It is in incredible shape, and I really wish I had some ammunition to put through this thing, but I simply do not, and that will not be a luxury that I have, because I'm not going to run ammunition through something like this unless I am absolutely positive that the ammunition will be good, and I do not want to risk this 140-year-old revolver potentially damaging or anything like that. I don't want to risk like a high-pressure cartridge. I don't want to risk anything going wrong with this revolver. Hell, I'm being very gentle with it while it's in my use. So this revolver right here, I think I've said everything that I have to say about it. Let me go grab the holster real quick, because I do not know if this is its original holster, but judging by how tore up and old and brittle and crackly it is, I would say it's a safe bet to assume this is its original holster. This is the holster that it came with. Belt loops over here on the back of the holster. Nothing real special going on there. This leather strap used to attach up over here, and that would be how you held your revolver in. We've got a little side port right here, which would normally be held, you know, in place and stay right there, for 12 cartridges, plus, you know, another 6 in the revolver itself, in the chamber and cylinder, or, you know, 5, depending on how safe it was that you were wanting to carry your revolver. So a grand total of 17, potentially 18 shots. Besides that, I think that this right here is all I have to say about this revolver here. By the time that this video comes up and, you know, is live and whatnot, this revolver probably would have long since sold. So don't bother asking down in the comments, you know, where you can go to find this old girl. This will be in somebody else's possession by the time that, you know, this video comes up, and it probably would have been there for like several months with my video upload schedule. I still have a lot of older videos that I'm trying to get through, so this will be long gone. And this is all I have to say about it. I wish I had some ammo for it. I can say that. Ah, that's better. All right, support GOA and FPC, or, you know, whatever activist community it is that you are wanting to support. We need them right now more than we ever have, especially with everything that's going on. Like, the world is getting scary, and these people are still wanting their, like, support Firearms Policy Coalition and support Gun Owners of America. If you're going to, like, those are some of the best ones. They're really, really good. There's other really, really good ones out there, but those are, like, I see progress happening with them. And if you can't support financially, at least go to their, you know, Take Action Centers. Just type into Google FPC, GOA, Take Action Center, and they have pre-written letters, emails that you can send to your representatives. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, Florida. Get out of here. Get out of here, Florida. They have pre-made emails. All you have to do is, like, sign it, like, digitally sign it. Just type your name in and hit send, and GOA and FPC will, I mean, they take care of all of the work. All you have to do is just go there and hit send, and they will contact your representative for you. And we need a lot more people doing that right now. We need like armies of people doing that. Okay, well, thanks for watching, folks. Hopefully you guys learned something about the old German handgun that came before the Luger. These revolvers, just because of, like, the lack of materials and resources during the First World War, did see use in the First World War, for what that's worth. Thank you, Kevin! Kevin, my man! Please be quiet. Jesus Christ, dude. I love you. I love you, Kevin. Don't get me wrong. But you don't have to scream so early in the morning. I don't get it. Why is it early in the morning whenever they have to scream like that? Thanks for watching, folks. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Description down below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and go check that out. Besides that, yeah, this is the end of the video. Oh, I need more coffee and breakfast. And some goddamn earplugs. Jesus Christ. Are you done? You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I have several videos that I want to make today, and this was actually a fun one. I enjoyed this, and I would have enjoyed it more if I actually had the chance to shoot this revolver, but I don't. Maybe one day I will, but right now I don't. I imagine that just because of the similarities between weight and ballistics, it would be like shooting an underpowered 45 ACP. That would be my assumption. Of course, the revolver is slightly lighter, so I imagine it would feel like shooting a 45 ACP. I'm not sure. Never done it. It's a black powder round, so the burning rates are different. I don't know. I'd have to actually run one in order to find out and compare it. So that being said, thanks for watching, folks. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. Yeah. I'm gonna go find something that I can shoot. once I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.